Kids, we're gonna hopefully finally do something about the dust collection on this thing. So, I've got the hose over here, and I've just been throwing it down here to catch it, and it's obviously not that great. My intention has always been to print something that will connect this to our hose over there, or design some kind of shroud to like cover the whole back side of this, which would probably be the most effective way to really catch as many particles as we can. But this thing moves a lot. I mean, it's sliding, it's compound, it's got dual bevel, you know, it moves a lot. So that's really gonna potentially hamper a lot of our range of motion with this thing. And then secondly, sometimes I do move this card around. Not often. Sometimes I'll take the saw out if I need to. So I think that's gonna be the most reasonable thing. So we're gonna design that. We'll do something really simple in Tinkercad to be able to connect this there. So we're gonna join these all together into one solid shape, hopefully. Let's rename this because it gives it ridiculous names. I'm gonna say Kobalt Miter dust adapter. If I can spell. And we're gonna export this to an STL file. And then maybe we'll do some measurements to see, you know, how can we make a flap on this thing to catch it a little better? We could print it, and maybe we'll print it. But I think we could pull this off with just like cardstock or some felt or leather even. So let's go run this print and then we'll check that out. I'll throw this up as a separate video, just something really short, very short tutorial on a very simple print from Tinkercad to your Prusa printer. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So we'll separate this out, make a separate video, and then we'll move on to the larger picture for the remainder of this, which is optimizing this dust collection on the miter. Okay, all right, let's do that. So, and that's pretty much our maximum depth right there. Yeah. I think the best thing is going to be some kind of a shroud that attaches on the outside. I think we could make something out of leather or some other material I have laying around, which would be just as easy. And just tape it on there. I mean, why do we need to have some massively engineered solution for that? Yeah. Let me see what I got. Let's go see. I think I have some leather in here. Yeah. We got probably some felt. Definitely got a bunch of felt in there. Some denim. I think quite a bit of weird fabric in here. Why do I have all this weird fabric? Oh yeah, me and Jake were making micarta. What's in this? What is this? Let me get a knife. That reminds me, I got this sweet new utility knife. My brother got this for me. Can you guys see that? It's a Kaiser. I think it's like a G10 handle there. It just uses your standard utility blades. Got your little lock right here. And you know, with this thing, you pretty much get access to almost the entire length of the blade. There's a little lock there. Can't quite flip it out. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can. Nice. Okay, yeah, let's cut this. Sorry for the distraction. Why don't I just have one piece of leather? Maybe I close this bag up. And it's probably fake leather. I mean, that might be stiff enough. If we fold it into that shape. and it will allow some flexibility. So that's a possibility. And that's just felt. I thought I had some more leather somewhere. So I think the leather's probably not a bad idea. And we're gonna use some Velcro. Huh, how about that? Velcro. Who would have thunk? So yeah, I'm gonna cut this and we're gonna put it on. We'll cut this and put it on our leather, and then put a piece on the saw. But let's see if it sticks to the leather first. Maybe we'll reinforce it with some CA glue too. All right. What was it I said earlier about inappropriately engineered and yada yada yada? So this stuff is probably about as wide as we want it anyway. Right? Yeah, it's roughly an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Good enough for me. So we're going to cut a piece. Somewhere like right here. So we're going to put this on the leather. And we'll put the other one on the saw. We're going to just put a little bit. Just a tiny more. Another little tiny smickerel. CA glue on there just to reinforce this. Probably totally unnecessary, but there's going to be some significant forces on this thing. A lot of movement over time. Okay. That's on there. Now all we need to do is put our counterpart on the saw. So let's go put this on the saw. I'm going to clean this with a little rubbing alcohol. Are we still recording? Yeah, we're still recording. Clean this with a little rubbing alcohol. Get the dirt, grease, and oils, and whatever else might affect our adhesion. And we'll work our way around. Now that sticks really nice to that. This might actually be just fine for long-term durability. It doesn't look bad at all. That's sticking real well. I didn't exactly get it even. That's fine. No big deal. A little bit more this way. That's not bad. I promise I'll get this eventually. I'm trying to get this even. Okay, that's on there. Not exactly elegant, but let's see if it'll cut. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. It can actually probably be longer. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hit our material at our full depth. We got clearance. Honestly, they could probably stand to be slightly longer. But I don't want to have any clearance issues there. So let's do something. Let's see what kind of slow-mo this camera's capable of, and see if we can't compare it. We're going to compare it with it on and take it off. So let's see if we can shoot some slow-mo. Well, what was it I said earlier about some highly over-engineered solution? I am definitely not an engineer. Turns out some Velcro was just good enough. I mean, we'll see how this stands up over time. But, I mean, I think that's our answer to that problem for now. Seems to work just fine, kids. And it's easy to take off and on. Just as easy as if we had magnets on it. So, there's that problem. Cool thing for you guys is it's going to take like literal seconds. But I got like 3 more hours left on this print. So I'll bring you back when that's done. One more thing, while we're waiting on that. We made a handful of cuts on some 2x4. I had just cleaned this area. Cleaned up all this dust, right? And we'll do some, maybe devise some other testing, but this is a good look. We're gonna look right now. Let's just take in all the dust there from the few cuts we just did. And then next time, we'll have our flap on there and we'll hook the hose up to it, hopefully, and we'll compare it to that. We'll do some other tests maybe too. I'll try to figure out something that's give us a little better idea. All right, we got to run this print. We'll be back in just a second or 3 hours. All right, our print finished. Actually got a pretty good outcome even with the lower settings. And we didn't end up with a significant lip in here, just tiny, almost imperceptible. And it doesn't feel horribly weak with just the 25% infill. Time will tell us. Let's see if this thing fits. So we were concerned about the clearances with this little rib on the motor here. We had talked about offsetting it and we didn't. But it turns out that's not going to be a problem. And it's got a good tight fit. A really nice fit. And we're just clearing the motor there. So that worked out perfect. Now we just got to get this thing in the hose. Before we mess with that, we want to get our hose length where we want it. I really did not do a great job of securing this either. Can you guys see that? Is that in the shot? You can see how wobbly this is. It's not plumb. It's just got that strap up there. So we need to make something to secure this better so we can have our hose out here and not be tugging that thing off the wall all the time. Also, we need to shorten this hose. The longer this hose is, the more power you're losing to suction because it's flexible. And we're losing some of that kinetic energy by flexing that pipe. So let's rig up something for this. So we're gonna rig up something to hold this. I think I have a plan. But we need to find our studs. These are oriented this way. This is like it's a pole barn type building. So we don't have studs going up and down. They're going sideways, or our nailers are. So let me get a stud finder. It looks like we have a stud right there. Okay. Now we'll probably make a little ring capture out of some plywood that we can screw into that stud and then put around that. So let's go do that. We've got a 4-inch pipe over there. And then we want a lip. And probably, we'll just go ahead and use this junky MDF I got. So it's 3/4 inch. We want at least a 3/4 inch lip. Let me go see what our gap on the wall is. Yeah, so we got about a 2-inch gap between the wall and that pipe. So we want a lip, want about 2 inches of material. It doesn't look square, does it? Close enough. All right. Now our pipe is 4 inches in diameter, OD. So we're gonna set our compass here to 2 inches, roughly. We could slightly oversize it just to make sure we fit right. We don't want a really tight fit. So we got our compass at 2 inches. That looks pretty good. Let's bring it this way a little bit. I don't want to have to cut a whole bunch off of this any more than is necessary. Actually, no, we do probably want at least an inch over here, because we don't want that to be too weak. We don't want to weaken this, so we're going to leave an inch. And go back here. That looks pretty good. Oh God, I just moved it. It should give us a 4-inch circle. Yep, just a smidge over, which is good. That's what we want. Good enough. Okay, we got that up there. I'd like to have something to hold this, to hold the hose back here, roughly midline somewhere. We mark that. I don't really want a rigid thing. I don't really want something rigid there. I think I have a decent idea that will be easy to move, easy to take off. It won't be terribly rigid. It will move with the hose if the hose needs to move. But it will hold it in place. Let's grab something to turn this. So I had this old S-hook in there. So we got this S-hook drilled into the wall, into the stud. And I have these little bungee balls. We'll see if this will hold the hose. And then wrap it around, put it through there. Well, what do you know, kids? It's gonna hold it, I think. Let's get some of the slack out of this thing. We don't need nearly this much hose. I don't want to put too much on our... We don't want to put too much tension on our hose, but that should be good. All right. Let's bring the saw out to its max there. I'll just set that on there for now. And really, right there is probably where we need to cut it. And that's as far out as the saw will ever go. I think that's good right there. I'll make her cut there. All right, we finally got that on there. So, that looks pretty good. Now I mentioned doing some testing earlier. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take the shop vac over here. I'm gonna clean up all this dust. So there'll be no dust before we start. And then we'll make 4 cuts. Without this, we're gonna take our shroud off. We're gonna take this hose off, do it purely without any kind of dust collection. And then we'll do one without the shroud but the hose. And then we'll do one with the shroud and the hose, see if there's any real difference. We're gonna do 4 cuts on each one. Forgot, I have this air quality meter. So we have it set on PM 2.5, which is a size range of particles that are really, really small. They're gonna get in your lungs and they're gonna mess you up. So yeah, it doesn't look great right now. At the moment, we're sitting on the spindle sander right next to the miter saw. I haven't cut anything in a little bit. My air handler is on the fritz, so that's another problem we're gonna have to deal with. But at the moment, we are at 51.6, what is it, micrograms per cubic meter. So that's terrible. It's unhealthy for sensitive groups. I hope you guys aren't sensitive. So this is going to be another test. Right now we're at 52.4. Let's make note of that. Oh, 52.8. I think I'm just kicking up dust every time we move around. So we're going to say we are currently, oh no, it's all right, we'll put it up here. 52.8 per meters cube right now. And that's without having made any recent cuts other than an MDF. So let's make our, we're gonna make 4 cuts without any kind of dust mitigation and see what happens here. All right, that's 4 cuts. We're hovering around 49.7 at the moment. Oh, there we go, 55.6. We are at unhealthy. This is climbing quick, kids. 64.8, oh, 65. Yeah, we're all getting sick, kids. We are all getting sick. So we're saying, we're going back down again. We'll say we peaked out a little above 65, 65.6. So we're going to make note of that. Let's look at our dust here. Get our pieces out of the way. So 4 cuts. We've got dust over here in this corner, quite a bit behind the saw, a lot behind the saw, a lot over here, so it's blown over this way. on the table. All right, I'm gonna clean that up and reset for our next test. Okay, we're reset, cleaned everything. We're down to 49.3, which is actually lower than where we were at our baseline, 49.2 micrograms per cubic meter. So 4 more cuts, but we're gonna do it with the hose on this time. Okay, so we made 4 cuts with the hose on. And we're climbing 53.5. We'll see what we end up with a max here, but it looked like 53.5 was probably going to be our max. Yeah, looks like that was probably our max. Now we can tell there's very little dust over here. A little bit of dust behind it. A little bit back there. A significant reduction in the amount of dust over here. I mean, there's basically no real amount of dust over there. So that helps. Which is not surprising. We'll reset, cleaned up again. And this time we've got our leather shroud on there. We're setting at about 50.1, 49 micrograms per cubic meter. And that keeps dropping. So we're gonna make a new baseline there. I mean, we're down to 48, 47. Yeah, we're dropping quick there. Okay, all right. This time, 4 more cuts, last round. We have an immediate problem. This got pushed up and it actually made the collection worse. So I'm gonna try it one more time. We're gonna reposition it better. But yeah, it looks like the shroud might actually be more harm than good. So the shroud is a no-go. I think part of the problem is we're getting caught in the blade, but also the vacuum force of this, the suction force. Watch this. Yep, it's sucking our shroud in. The shroud is not an upgrade. All right, kids. That's it for the Kobalt dust collection upgrade. It seems to be a pretty decent length. You know, we're not impinging a whole lot. It's not crimping anywhere. We could probably shorten it a little bit, but I'm gonna leave it like it is. The shroud, we've definitely realized, is not an upgrade. It's gonna have to be rigid. And if it's rigid, you know, we've only got like, I don't know, a few inches of space here, really probably only 2 inches or less before we start to hit any stock we're cutting. If we want to get a total through cut on something, you know, say a 4x4, which is not terribly uncommon for me to cut molding, you know, things that are going to be higher than you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, a rigid shroud there is going to significantly affect our ability to cut that, I think. You know, if you're not sliding, it probably won't be a problem. But anyway, we demonstrated some pretty significant improvements there in the air quality alone, just in the vicinity of the saw. It's not perfect. We're going to have to do some more stuff with the air handler over there to get that working. I don't know if we need to replace it or what, but we'll deal with that later. All right, pretty quick one. Thanks for watching, kids. See you next time.